Hello beautiful people of Age of Empires Mobile. Timmy is here with an awesome video because I will gonna explain you which gems should you put on which type of hero, commander or support hero, but actually I will gonna go one step further and also explain you how the gems in generally increases your performance in Age of Empires Mobile, because while the gems, technically speaking, are applied on one hero, some of these gems actually buff only the hero, and some of these gems will buff the entire march. And while the gems are one way to increase your stats, I would like to start at the beginning and take a battle report, using this opportunity also to explain you how the stats are working in Age of Empires Mobile, while the main topic of this episode indeed remains the gems. A battle report in which you see the stats. So 500 something might attack, 450 strategy, 426 might defense, and so on. But all these stats are in percentage. So percentage of what? On what exactly are these percentages applying on? Because we're gonna need a fixed value, and we indeed have one. All you have to do is go to your troops, no matter which one. And in this case, you see here the tier 7, but you also see a button over here, which will show you these fixed values. These values will never gonna change. So those percentages will gonna apply exactly on this. What's also super noticeable is the differences between the tiers, because if we have a look at these stats right here versus this tier 6, it's a big difference, which will gonna become even bigger when this percentage of the stats will gonna apply on. And here I would like to highlight something super important, not just only when it comes down to the gems, which is the main topic of this episode. Here you see a fixed value of 194 points attack, a fixed value of 146 defense, and a fixed value of 146% health. Now what you are noticing here, that the defense and the health has the same value. But let me show you something interesting, because if we go back to a battle report and we look at the buffs, what are you seeing here? So if we have a look at the might attack, strategy attack, might defense, and strategy defense, all these values are kind of over 400%, while we see the health just 88%. Now obviously you can click on this arrow down and see exactly where this is coming from, but this is the main reason why experienced players in Age of Empires Mobile will tell you that health will gonna improve your performance the most, because you don't have that many things in which you can increase your health. So I would like to take this setup for the cavalry, and a lot of you guys definitely have Lubu. And this is the commander, but this match has also 2 support heroes. And if we check again any battle report, this is what you're gonna see. A huge amount of damage coming from your commander, while the 2 heroes, we're gonna do a little bit of damage, but their main role is actually to support Lubu, or to buff Lubu and also buff your march. And when I say buff your march, you will understand this in a second when we get to those gems, which you are equipping on the support heroes. So before we start with the gems, let's click on the attributes. Because in order for you to understand which gems are only for your commander and which gems are not just only for your commander, but also improving the entire march, we're gonna have to look at the attributes overview. So what you're seeing here is basically that the might, armor, and strategy, all 3 stats, will gonna affect the hero, but also the entire march. Yes, even the strategy. So let me get to that. When you click on the might, you see that for each point of might, you are getting a might attack of your units increased by 1.15% per point. And also in this case, specifically gonna buff only Lubu. When we have a look at the armor, super interesting, because it's reducing the damage from the heroes which are might-based heroes from your opponent. Presumably he uses might heroes. And obviously also we have heroes in Age of Empires Mobile which are armor-based heroes, which will gonna get an extra advantage out of this stat. And I said the strategy stat is actually helping Lubu too, even though Lubu is a might-based hero, because if we click on it, for every point the strategy will increase the strategy damage of your hero and your troops, but in this case Lubu doesn't do strategy damage. But what's super important, it's actually gonna provide you with some strategy defense if your opponent is using strategy heroes. Good, now we're ready to talk about the gems. And when we have a look at the helm, we have these square gems. So which type of square gems do we have? Obviously the capacity, obviously the health. We also have the armor. which I explained is pretty awesome. But we also have the all units attack. So in this case, for your commander, you want to buff these commanders as much as possible. And I saw a lot of people actually going with the all units attack, which by the way will affect the entire march. But you can go capacity with health, find somewhere a balance. It's super easy to see the capacity numbers on your march. It's a bit more difficult to actually see your health of your troops. So even though these gems are applied on Lubu, and because Lubu is in this march, will actually affect the entire march. Now let's have a look at the gloves, because here we have this type of gems. And I would like to categorize these gems in two different categories. So we're gonna have the might or the pure strategy buff. And I strongly recommend you to take one of these and use it on your main hero. Obviously, in this case, it has to be might because Lubu is a might-based hero. But for the hero which are doing strategy damage, you need this one. And then we have two other gems. One of this is the armor, and the other one is all units attributes, which are perfect and actually to be recommended for the support heroes, but we're gonna get to that in a moment. So focus on the primary stats of your hero, and it will be better than all attributes, because you want to push your commander to do as much damage as possible. Now let's have a look at the chest, which has this type of gems, and obviously here you really have to pay attention what kind of damage does your hero do. So all you have to do is come in here, check this type of attack, which shows you secondary strike damage. This is also secondary strike damage. So obviously we want to focus on that. And here you have to pay attention that this gem specifically only gonna buff Lubu, and even if the other two heroes have secondary strike type of damage, they won't be buffed by these specific gems equipped on Lubu. But what other gems we have in here? We are having heroes passive skill damage up. And I'm gonna explain this gem once we are reaching the support hero, obviously also the healing. And here you have, for example, increasing the attack of the active skills, which is the case for Miyamoto, Yorit, and a couple of other heroes. We have the turn-based skills, and a couple of support heroes do indeed have that, but we're gonna get to that in a second. And we have this super interesting one, as this is troop normal attack damage. And I will gonna explain this one also when we go to the support heroes in general. Let's have a look at the boots now, because here you have three different type of gems. In this case, for the square one, I can put capacity, I can put health if I want to, you can put defense in here, but by far the best one is actually all units type attack up. And in this case, for this specific gem, it actually affects the entire march, even though it's only equipped on Lubu. The second one, obviously, you have to focus on the main stat of your hero. So here is might. Obviously, you can put all heroes attributes, but again, these gems are recommended for the support heroes. And of course, the third gem is to buff again his damage type, which is in this case secondary strike type, but only from Lubu, not from the other two heroes. So that's generally your commander. And here you see me actually using two support heroes. So let's actually start with Attila, and again show you the battle report, as it's going to play a massive role helping me to decide which gems should I put on Attila. Because if we see the general overview, you see this massive amount of damage, and what you're seeing here, it's 13k, here you see 8.7, so they won't do that much damage. So which gems are the best? When we have a look at the helm, here is obviously where you can play around with the health, with capacity. I have explained you that there is a difference between the health and capacity. It's far harder to get health, so definitely a good idea. When it comes down to the gloves, here is the moment in which you would like to have these gems over here. Even though Attila is a might-based hero, but he won't do that much damage either way. So if I take all units attributes, it's gonna increase with a gold gem all the attributes by 2.5%. What does this mean? So I'm getting 2.25 might, armor, strategy. Obviously we're gonna ignore the siege. And what does this mean? When we click on the might, we see that equipping this gem on Attila will gonna increase the might attack of the units, which by the way Lubu will benefit from that. And obviously on top, this 2.25 might multiplied with 0.3%, that's by how much the damage coming exclusively from Attila will gonna be increased. When we have a look at the armor, I'm gonna get also for each point of might an extra 0.15% might defense, meaning hopefully my opponent will gonna attack me with might type of damage heroes. And of course, strategy is also super nice. 2.25 multiplied with 0.50. That's how much strategy defense I'm gonna get just in case my opponent will gonna use tactical based heroes. And now let's jump to the chest. Super important, because as you saw in that battle report, he doesn't do that much damage. The support heroes don't do that much damage. Therefore, this is the best gem in this case. For the support heroes, it's increasing the troop normal attack damage. And even though these gems are equipped on Attila in this case, it's actually gonna benefit and help Lubu do even more damage, and I will gonna give you an example of this in just a moment. And when it comes down to the boots, you have all three types of gems. Here, again, you have a lot of possibilities. This is an aggressive one, because all units attack up means also that my Lubu will gonna do far more damage just because I have this gem equipped on Attila. But depending on what you have, you can put, of course, capacity, health is great, but I think this is kind of the best one. When it comes down to the middle one, obviously, as we said, the best would be all attributes. I don't have a yellow one yet. You see, I have one in purple, so therefore, for the time being, I'm just keeping this here. But the goal would be to have this one right here, all attributes up in gold. And the third type of gem, again, I'm putting troop normal attacks damage up, because this will increase the damage of Lubu, even though the gem is equipped on Attila. Good, let's have a look at Rani, because she's kind of a bit different. Because in the case of Rani, we actually have more possibilities. Now, this is obviously the best one for me right now. Sure, we can use the armor piercer. Sure, we can use, for example, the pursuit in here. And we have to pay attention. This is a secondary strike type of damage. And even if I will put those gems for secondary strike, she still won't do that much of a damage. So I'd rather gonna keep these gems for the secondary strike type of damage for Lubu, or actually for my Archer's March. And obviously we can also use the Bloodthirst if we want to, because this will gonna heal your units. And in this case, sure, the gems increasing your healing would be the best choice, but I have decided to actually go with the King's Blade and Warrior Hymn. Now the King's Blade, it's a skill turn based damage, which you also know from the Pikemans. And again, I could use those gems on her, but I'd rather gonna put them on my Pikemans, because she won't do that much damage. And when it comes down to the Warrior Hymn, you see here, this skill is an active one, but doesn't have any damage. Therefore, those gems increasing the active skill damage of a hero won't work on this one. So from this perspective, if we go briefly on her gear, when it comes down to the helm, is basically the same story like it was for Attila. When it comes down to the gloves, it's obviously the same story. These are the best one you can choose. Of course, armor will work. Make sure you don't use strategy in here. But when it comes down to the chest, this is the perfect one. Troop normal attack damage increased by 1.5%, because equipping these three gems on Rani, it will actually gonna cause Lubu to do even more damage, which is absolutely great and will indeed make a bigger difference. And in the case you want to use Rani with Bloodthirst, sure, you can increase the healing, but I'd rather gonna keep this gem for Mehmet to increase his healing. And when it comes down to the boots, it's basically the same story. Try to find somewhere a balance between what would be the best and what exactly you have right now. This is, from my perspective, the best one. This is obviously also the best one. And in this case, also this is the best one. All I have to do now is actually to raise their level. Let me give you an example. So I've done two battle attacks with the same configuration, but there is a difference. So when we have a look at the comparison, we go directly to the overview. It's super simple to see it. You can either memorize these numbers, or I'm just going to put it right after in the video and slide to the side back and forth in order to see there is a difference. So this would be how the overview damage looks like when, in this case, Attila has all three gems on, which are troop normal attacks. Now have a look at what happens when I'm taking those three gems off, because we have a second attack, same configuration, but when we have a look at Attila, well, all three of them are taken off. And when we have a look at the comparison, Well, look at this. The damage is far lower, and obviously, the longer the battery it is, the more clearly this difference is gonna be now. And now I'm taking these two screenshots to show you. Again, the difference is noticeable, but not just that, the explanation is also correct that there are indeed gems in Age of Empires Mobile. Even though equipped on a specific hero, it actually gonna increase the damage output of the commanders and the other heroes also. So beautiful people, I hope I haven't left anything out, but if I did, let me know in the comments. We can do an extra video on that. Please rate this video and tell me how well have I approached this topic, because it was only the gems. And obviously, if you want to support my channel and indeed found the value in this, please give something back, which is 100% free, as you should subscribe to this channel. Obviously, watch my videos till the end. Share this channel with your friends if they are playing this awesome game, Age of Empires Mobile. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna catch you in the next awesome episode.